Welcome to Tech Talk Central. Today we're diving into a head-to-head comparison that a lot of console gamers are probably thinking about. It's the LG Evo C4 versus the Samsung QN85D, both 65-inch 4K smart TVs from this year's 2024 lineup.
Yeah, two really strong contenders, but they take pretty different approaches, technologically speaking.
Exactly. And our mission today is basically to help you, our listeners, figure out the key differences and maybe decide which one is the better fit for your gaming setup. We'll be digging into the product info, looking at picture tech, gaming features, all that good stuff.
Sounds good. So should we start with the LG, the Evo C4?
Yeah, let's do it. So
Oh.
this one is all about OLED Evo technology. Self-lit pixels. That's the big selling point for OLED, right?
That's the core of it, yeah. Each pixel makes its own light. So when you need black, the pixel just turns completely off.
Right.
You get those incredibly deep blacks, amazing contrast. It's something LED TVs, even good ones, struggle to fully replicate.
Okay, so perfect blacks, great contrast, but it's Evo. What does the Evo add? The specs mention richer colors too.
Well, Evo is LG's term for their, let's say, enhanced OLED panels. They generally offer better brightness compared to older OLEDs and refinements in color volume. So yes, richer colors alongside those perfect blacks.
Gotcha. And driving all this is their A9 AI processor, Gen 7 AI rig. It's everywhere. What's it actually doing here for the picture and sound?
So the AI processor is doing a couple of key things. One big one is AI super upscaling.
Huh?
If you're playing, say, an older game or watching something that isn't native 4K, the processor analyzes it and, well, intelligently scales it up. It tries to make it look sharper, closer to 4K, and reduce noise.
So that makes non-4K stuff look better, basically.
Yeah, kind of gives it a visual facelift. And it does similar things for sound analyzing the audio source and optimizing it for the TV speakers or your sound system.
Clever. Okay, let's talk gaming specifics because that's our focus. LG is pushing a 144 hertz refresh rate. That's high.
It is. And a 0.1 millisecond response time, which is incredibly fast.
Wow.
Plus, it supports NVIDIA G-Sync, AMD FreeSync Premium, and standard VRR.
Okay, break that down. For someone deep into console gaming, what's the real benefit of 144 hertz, 0.1 mirrors, and all those VRR acronyms?
All right. So 144 hertz means the screen can refresh 144 times per second. Now, current consoles like PS5 and Series X mostly top out at 120 hertz.
Right.
But having 144 hertz gives you headroom, maybe for future consoles, or if you hook up a PC, it can sometimes even help reduce input lag a tiny bit at lower frame rates.
Okay.
The 0.1 meters response time, that's a pixel transition speed. Faster means less motion blur. So in really fast-paced games, the image stays clearer, crucial for competitive play.
Definitely.
And all the VRR support G-Sync, FreeSync, standard VRR that's about synchronizing the TV's refresh rate with the console's frame rate output. It eliminates screen tearing, that ugly horizontal line you can sometimes see.
Okay. And it has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports.
Yep, 4 of them, which is essential for getting those high frame rates, like 4K at 120 hertz or potentially 144 hertz, plus VRR from your devices.
So the LG C4 seems really kitted out for demanding gamers.
It definitely ticks a lot of the high-end gaming boxes.
Okay, let's pivot then. The Samsung QN85D. This is Neo QLED. So still an LED base, but different. It uses quantum matrix with mini LEDs. What's the story there?
Right, so Neo QLED isn't OLED. It's an advanced LCD TV. Instead of a few large backlight LEDs, it uses thousands of tiny mini LEDs.
Mini LEDs, okay.
And the quantum matrix part refers to the very precise control Samsung has over these tiny LEDs. They can dim or brighten very small zones of the screen independently.
So better local dimming than a standard LED TV.
Massively better. It leads to much better contrast, deeper blacks, not quite OLED level perfect black because there's still a backlight, but much closer than traditional LEDs. And significantly, it allows for higher peak brightness.
Oh, brightness. That's often a Samsung strength.
Thank you.
It also mentions Neo Quantum HDR. How does their HDR approach stack up?
Neo Quantum HDR leverages that mini LED backlight control. HDR is all about wider range of brightness and color. Samsung uses that precise backlight to push really bright highlights while maintaining good shadow detail in the same scene.
So dynamic contrast, scene-by-scene adjustments.
Exactly. While OLED gets its contrast from pixels turning off, Neo QLED uses its sophisticated backlight for HDR impact. It can often get brighter overall than the LG OLED, which can be an advantage in brighter rooms.
Okay. Good point about room brightness. Now, gaming on the Samsung, it lists motion accelerator turbo, 120 hertzes, not 144 hertz like the LG. Is that a big deal for console gamers?
Well, like we said, current consoles primarily target 120 hertz anyway. So 120 hertz is still excellent for smooth motion on PS5 and Series X.
Right.
Motion accelerator turbo is likely Samsung's term for their motion smoothing and blur reduction processing. The synced sound part suggests they're also working on minimizing audio latency.
Okay. But the specs we have don't explicitly mention G-Sync or FreeSync Premium for the QN85D, unlike the LG.
That's true. It might support standard VRR over HDMI 2.1, but the lack of specific mention of G-Sync or FreeSync Premium could be a deciding factor for gamers who rely on those specific technologies, perhaps PC gamers.
Something to keep an eye on. What about sound? The Samsung has Dolby Atmos and object tracking sound light.
Okay, so Dolby Atmos provides that sort of 3D object-based sound bubble, assuming you have compatible content and potentially a soundbar. Object Tracking Sound Light, or OTS Light, is Samsung's tech trying to make the sound seem like it's coming from the action on screen. If something moves left to right, the sound profile tries to follow it. It's an elite version, so maybe not as complex as their higher-end OTS, but it aims for more immersion than standard TV speakers.
And the LG also supports Atmos, right?
Yes, both TVs handle Dolby Atmos.
Okay, let's touch on smart features and connectivity. LG has WebOS 24, built-in Alexa, and this Renew program promising 5 years of OS updates. That seems pretty significant.
That 5-year update promise is definitely a standout feature. It suggests longer-term support and potential for new features down the line via software. WebOS is a mature, well-regarded smart platform.
And the Samsung. It has its gaming hub, 4 HDMI ports too, but it notes 2 USB 2.0. And we know the LG has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. That HDMI difference feels important.
It can be, absolutely. If you have a PS5, an Xbox Series X, and maybe a high-end PC or another 2.1 device, those 4 full-bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports on the LG are a real plus. You won't run out of high-spec inputs.
Right, no swapping cables.
Exactly. The Samsung Gaming Hub is cool, though. It aggregates cloud gaming services, consoles, and game streaming apps into one interface. Convenient if you use a mix of those. But yeah, the connectivity edge, specifically HDMI 2.1 ports, goes to the LG C4 based on this info.
So wrapping this up, it feels like a classic matchup.
Yep.
The LG C4 leans heavily on OLED, strengths, contrast, response time, and really doubles down on gaming specs like 144 Hz, full VRR support, and those 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, plus the software update promise.
Yeah, it seems positioned for the enthusiast gamer who wants those top-tier specs and the unique look of OLED.
Whereas the Samsung QN85D offers that Neo QLED brightness, which can be great for varied lighting conditions, potentially punchier HDR highlights, and the convenience of the gaming hub. Still great for gaming with 120 Hz support, but maybe not quite as spec-focused on every single gaming feature as the LG.
Precisely. It really boils down to what you value most. Is it the absolute black levels and pixel response of OLED and maximum gaming features? Or is it the higher brightness and vibrant image of mini LED, particularly in a brighter room, perhaps with the streamlined gaming hub?
2 excellent TVs, but for slightly different priorities, maybe.
I think that's a fair way to put it. Both are strong choices for 4K console gaming in 2024.
Well, hopefully this deep dive has helped clear things up a bit for anyone trying to choose between these two.
Remember, the ideal choice really depends on your specific needs, your room, and what aspects you personally prioritize for gaming.
Definitely. And hey, to find the latest prices and deals on either the LG C4 or the Samsung QN85D, be sure to check out the links we've put in the description below.
Always good to check current pricing.
And of course, if you enjoyed this breakdown, if you found it helpful, and you want to stay up to date on the latest tech discussions, please do subscribe to our channel, Tech Talk Central.
We'd appreciate it.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. As gaming tech keeps pushing forward, with new consoles potentially on the horizon eventually, how do you think these different display technologies, OLED versus mini LED, might evolve further to keep pace? Something to mull over.
That's a good question. Continued competition there will be interesting to watch.